Up and running. So, we are today at chapter 4, demand theory. We begin again with same section 4.1, only a review of what we did yesterday, very quickly, before we continue. We said number 1 was consumer demand theory. And there are factors affecting demand. There are primary factors and secondary factors. Yesterday I covered the primary. I'll repeat them again. And at the end of the lecture, I will add a few more secondary. So the first primary was the price itself. And that would be simply the law of demand. The second one was
consumer income.
Income. Rich people usually spend more and usually buy more. Unless the commodity is red color. Inferior. Inferior good is a good of which you consume less when your income increases. The best example would be, well, not for everybody, junk food, as in McDonald's, okay? Usually in America, junk food is cheap, very cheap, dirt cheap. It's the cheapest type of food. So poor people eat a lot of junk food. Okay, but as people get more and more income, they move away from junk food and they go to slightly better restaurants. So fast food will be considered. And of course, I already mentioned yesterday potatoes. Oh yeah, one of the better examples of inferior food is hot dog. Hot dog. Yes, hot dog is cheap, very cheap, dirt cheap, but not really good. Most people understand that. So as soon as they get a little more money, they don't eat hot dog. Okay? Except, that's very interesting exceptions now. Except that hot dog is loaded with chemicals. Some of these chemicals, one of them is called MSG, is addictive. Addiction, you understand addiction?
Yes.
So, actually, people want to eat it to feed the addiction, okay? So, now, one of the answers to inferior goods is to load them up with addictive substances so that when you get people on that thing, you can't get them off, okay? So, a lot of other addictions result are in foods, okay? Not drugs. Drugs is just 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. But you got a lot of food addictions. All right, let's do the most addictive food of all is sugar. Sugar is highly addictive. People don't, but it's like a drug, okay? Well, it kills, lowers pain. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel comfortable. You do a little more sugar, it makes you feel high. And then tonight or tomorrow, you want it again, okay? So now, sugar is known as empty calories. It is not nutritious. It is not good for you. But most people want it, like it, and are addicted. They have a hard time stopping it. It's part of inferior goods in general. Anyway, the other one is considered, let's repeat again, normal good. Number 3 would be related goods. And these were 2 types. One is complement. And the other one is substitute. Example with the complement will be, we said yesterday, gasoline. So during 2005, 6, 7, and 8, when oil prices were going sky high and the Middle East was booming and Dubai was building skyscrapers, okay, high to the sky. In America, gasoline prices go up and up, and we're killing the American consumer, to the point that American consumers before loved these huge, monstrous SUVs that are, we say in English, word gas guzzlers. All right, let's do some English. Let's see who can properly translate the word gas guzzler. You love them too. They just, gasoline is just cheap, so cheap that you don't care, okay? So what is a guzzler? You know what's the guzzle? It means drink, 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 drink a lot. So this is a car that has a huge consumption, extremely high consumption of gasoline, okay? Well, Americans love those, except that when oil prices went up high, gasoline prices went up. Suddenly, people were screaming in America, because again, gasoline there is like 2, 3, 4 times more expensive than over here. They were screaming that gasoline is so expensive that the gas guzzler turned out to be extremely expensive luxury, where most people could not afford it. They couldn't afford the gasoline, not the car. To the point that demand for the cars, those SUVs, big 5-6 liter engine SUVs, demand dropped dramatically. Now, in Europe, we have similar phenomenon where government says, we put a tax, a special tax, not a VAT tax, but it's called a punitive tax. So gasoline in Europe is probably the most expensive in the world. It's like 5, 6, 7 times more expensive than over here. So demand for any kind of a big car is like unthinkable. So people, Europeans, actually prefer very, very small, very compact, very lightweight. Gas efficient is the opposite word. Gas efficient. Gas efficient. So they're very, very efficient in gasoline. So that they burn very little, so the cost of travel is not as much. So demand will be driven by, again, number 4. Let's write it out. Preferences. But there is also one other factor. Let me add it in here. I wrote a little bit or explained a little bit. Government policy. The government, through taxes, subsidies, and different incentives, government policy will shift demand. Now, the simplest way the government will shift demand with government policy is by introducing a tax. Which European governments have done for a very long time on cigarettes, and which the local government here introduced a month ago, right? So, introduced the VAT tax, okay, but you introduced much higher tax on what? What's the higher tax? But that's just 1 month ago, right here. You're all paying it. I'm paying it.
The services?
Yeah.
The
Better? No, well, I understand all that. I'm talking about punitive taxes, where the tax on certain commodities here is much higher than tax on all other commodities. Number one, I just gave you the example, cigarettes. Yeah. Well, number two, sugary drinks. Sugary drinks. I mean, it might be better if the government just bans them altogether. I mean, they are addictive. They have all the effects of drugs. Might as well ban them. That's a different story, right? The point is, the government, through government policy, through taxes, a tax, for example, sugar drinks prices went up, I don't know, 50% or so. Cigarettes prices almost doubled. And the tax will affect demand by affecting the final consumer price through the law of demand. Okay, so this is very common for governments. Now, the government policy could be, let's say, subsidizing. Subsidy means government pays money to lower the price. Saudi and most Middle East governments subsidize some foods like rice. In Saudi Arabia, rice is like cheap, dirt cheap, okay? Now, the problem with something that is dirt cheap is that there is a lot of waste. You know, they pour their big plate, eat a little bit, the rest is thrown away. You guys do this? Yeah. Well, either way, the point is that when there is a tax, people consume less of it because of the higher price. When there is a subsidy, people consume more of it because of the lower price. So taxes and subsidies work through the law of demand. Let's see, so I covered a little bit of that part. All right, now next piece to introduce, so this was all from yesterday, is called income effect. Income effect is something relatively simple and easy to understand. Let's say the price of coffee is 5 dirham, and some other employee here around, I'm just making numbers for easy calculation, the salary is 5,000, so they can simply afford to buy 1,000 in a month. Well, now, suppose the price from 5 drops to 2.5. Now they can buy, instead of 1,000, they can buy 2,000. But here's the thing, if they buy, let's say for coffee, we just say a person drinks 3 coffee a day, perfectly normal. It's still addictive, it's still a drug, right? I mean, I do it 3 times a day. So, somebody drinks 100 coffee. Before, they would be spending 100 coffee times 5 AED. They'll be spending 500 on it. Now, they're still drinking 5, but if the price is 3, they are saving 200. So if all other prices don't change, everything else is exactly the same. Clothes, all other foods, shoes, bags, lipsticks, perfumes, whatever you consume, phones, you still, meaning the consumer, still has 200 extra to spend on coffee or other things. So the income effect is associated with lower price and savings, saved income that you can use to buy more of that good. Okay, it's that simple. Now, in the simplest example, let me try to rewrite now a very simple example. You'll do the following. You have 100 coffee times 5 is 500. But if the price is 4, you can buy 125 for 500. So you can buy 100 for coffee for 400. You save 100 and you can use 100 to buy 25 extra. Okay? So you just save lower price, saves money. And when you save the money, you can spend it on more of the same good. That's simple income effect. Of course, if you save money on this, you can spend it on something else. You can buy pens, you can buy books, you can buy whatever else. That's the income effect. And there is an additional effect. So, what does the income effect say? Let me try to write it out. If price goes down, this means that the total expenditure goes down. This means that the savings go up. And this means that the quantity, if you save more money, you just buy more with the saved money. So this is the income effect. Now let's try to do the substitution. Substitution effect. Let's try and get two meats for which I would assume you're almost neutral. One will be beef, and the other one will be lamb. Okay? Now, for me, personally, it's just a belief. It's a simple preference. Okay? You can also call it taste. I always prefer lamb to beef, not for the taste. Because lamb usually can be grown only on a pasture. You can't get it into a manufacturing, and you can't feed lamb junk. Lamb will not eat junk. Now, you can get a cow, and you can feed the cow all sorts of junk, okay? Like grains, okay? When you feed a cow a grain, that fattens the cow, but makes it sick. So the meat is not good because the cow was not healthy. Okay? Now, it means more profit for the farmer who grows the cow. Okay? So for them, it's more profitable, but for the consumer, it is worse. So if the price of beef and the price of lamb is the same, I personally choose the lamb. That's my personal preference. So I'll still eat some beef, but I'll probably eat, let's say in a month, if I eat 5 kilograms of meat, I'll eat 4 lamb and only 1 beef. Now, someone else might just love the taste or the cooking, whatever. Again, every person is individual, and they say, oh, I like beef a lot more. Now, when I was a child, I would not eat under any circumstances, lamb, to me, smell horrible, okay? But that was when I was a 10, 12, 14-year-old. So I eat, zero lamb and mostly beef, okay, as an example. So this is yet another example of how age changes preferences, age changes demand, but the other part here is education and learning. My understanding currently is that lamb is significantly better than beef. Now, if the beef was grown, let's say in Australia or New Zealand, and it's pasture-based and there are no hormones, beef is just as good. But modern beef is not. Okay, anyway, back to the substitution effect. So, the price of, let's say, beef is, I'm just picking a number, 40, and lamb is 40. And now we say that beef price goes down to 30, okay? So before at 40, they're equally priced. I'll eat 1 unit of beef, and I'll be eating 4 units, meaning kilograms of lamb. If the price drops to 30 and this is still 40, I'll substitute a little bit and say, oh, well, beef is a little cheaper. Maybe I'll eat 2 kilograms of beef and 3 of lamb. Okay, so I'll choose to eat more beef simply because it's cheaper, okay? Now, it's a lot more effective if the price is 20 and this is 40. I may switch a little bit. I may say, okay, I'll eat 3 and 2 just because it's cheaper, okay? But this is the substitution effect. In a substitution effect, I'm choosing the same total quantity. 1 plus 4 is 5, 2 times 3 is 5, 3 times 2 is 5. But here is a little extra trick. Now I'm paying 20 and I'm saving money. How much does this cost me here? What is my total cost here?
80.
What is my total cost here?
80. You choose 140.
I choose 1 kilogram of this and 4 kilograms of this. What is my total expenditure?
200.
200. I'm spending 200. So I'm spending 40 dirham here, and I'm spending 160, which is 40 times 4. Well, how much am I spending here?
150.
I'm sick. I think it's 180. Now, let's see. Excuse me, my wrong. So this is 60, and this is 120, is 180. And now I'm spending how much here? This is 60, and 80.
200.
140. So this is all here, the 1, 4, 2, 3, 3, 2. That's the substitution effect. Oh, but there's income effect. What is the income effect? The income effect is now that I'm having 140 instead of 200. I just saved 60. And if I save 60, I'll buy more of which one? I'll buy maybe more lamb just because I like it more. So this is the pure substitution effect here. But I just saved 60. So I'll say, oh, well, if that's the case, I'll still use the price of 20, which is still the same price. The lamb is 40. I'll still use 3, I'm saving a good amount of money, and I'll spend and I'll buy 3 of lamb. And what's going to be my total cost? 180. Should be 180. This is 60, and this is 20, this is 180. Okay, so now see what happened. From 1.4, because I saved a lot of money on beef, first, I bought more beef just because it's cheaper. But from the income effect, I also bought more lamb too. So I bought a lot more beef because it's cheaper. I saved money. So the cheaper beef is the substitution effect. I saved money and buy more lamb. That's the income effect. At the end, I'm eating a lot more beef, just a little bit less lamb. I'm eating, instead of 5 kilograms of meat, now I'm eating 6. Better. And I still save a little bit of money. So this is how consumers usually adjust. Okay, they adjust their demand. Now, of course, the logic may apply for some of you. I can't possibly know you. For fish, maybe some people like a little bit more fish, but fish is more expensive. As soon as fish price falls, you start buying a lot more, and you buy maybe less of the other meats. Again, depending on your personal taste. I'm just giving you an example with me. And these beef and lamb we call close substitutes. Close. Close substitutes. They're very similar to each other. Alright, so this is the income effect and this is the substitution effect. And usually both of them affect demand. Both income effect and substitution effect are associated with a price falling or price rising. Okay, both of them. Let's see, where did I come up with this? Page 123. Page 1, 2, 3. That's the income substitution effect, and income effect is again page 1, 2, 3. All right, let's see what else we got here. Changing. Okay, next one. I already covered a little bit yesterday. I mentioned it. Let's make sure that everybody understands. That's important basic terminology. How you use the words is the following. This is your demand. For some reason, you get to hear that they raise the meat with some horrible foods, okay? Usually, for example, they do hormones. You understand hormones?
Yes.
So, you shoot the animal with hormone, the animal grows bigger, but it's not good for you and me, okay? Because it disbalances your own hormone. You eat the hormones and you absorb them. Anyway, so you will demand less of it. Let's explain here. For the same price, you will buy only half. For the same price, this is quantity, this is price. For the same price, you will buy less. For the same lower price, you'll buy less. For the same lower price, for the same. In other words, due to some reason, you demand less of it. So the new demand curve goes like this. Okay, we call this shift in demand. So demand curves shifts. Here, in this case, we say shift to the left. That's relatively simple. Of course, it's perfectly possible that the demand curve will shift to the right. So when you have a shift in the curve, you say there is a change in demand, change in demand, okay? Now, it's important to understand the difference between a change in demand, which means shift in the demand curve, and moving along the demand curve. You move along the demand curve only when the price changes. For example, the price of beef went down, so I am willing to buy more. In this particular case, you move like this. Here, 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 and then you settle down here. So you buy more, you demand more because of lower price. So here it's not change in demand. Let me write it up again. But it says change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded means the curve is the same. The curve didn't shift to the left, didn't shift to the right. You just moved along the curve simply because the price changed. In a shift in demand, the quantity demanded changes for the same price. So in a shift, the same price, different quantity. In changing quantity demanded, the price changes and the quantity changes, but the curve remains unchanged. So this is important terminology when we talk, or you talk in economics. It's very important to clarify whether there is a change in demand or change in quantity demanded. In changing quantity demanded, you move along the curve. The curve is the same. In changing demand, the whole curve shifts to the left or shifts to the right. Okay. Next, let's write it out just to be sure everybody understands it. When we say left shift, this is the same as shift to the left. Now, does it mean that demand increases or demand decreases? When the curve shifts to the left, decrease. So I just like to write it like this. Demand with an arrow going down. This is decreasing demand. Now, when I have a right shift, demand increases. Okay. Let me see. This is page 124. So this is the explanation. The next piece here will be, again, I mentioned individual demand, and from individual demand now we move to market demand. And I'll just draw a simple, easy picture of two consumers, how they make a simple market. Am I running out of ink? Yes. So, let's draw a simple picture. So for one consumer, that's his demand, okay? And for the second consumer usually has a little bit of higher demand for the same price. Example, you drink very little coffee, maybe just one a day, sometimes two. Now, I'm addicted, I drink 3 or 4. So, for the same prices, I can easily and would prefer to drink twice more than you, okay? So, your demand is lower, my demand is higher. Now, we say horizontal summation. Let me write it out and show it. It's very simple and it's very easy. Let me show it to you. It's very simple. Here. For this price, let's say, now we can use and change rice, for example. For this price, let's say for 1 month, you consume, let's say I consume only 5 kilograms of rice and you consume 10. So mine is 5, yours is 10, and now we say that our total of 5 and 10 is 15. And that's 15 here. Here, for this price, my demand is 6, your demand is 12, our total is 18. So, you take a look at this graph and just put it next to it, okay? So, this new curve, if this is demand for consumer A, we can just say, let me rewrite it, DA, demand for A, and this here is demand for B. This is demand A plus B, okay? So, it's simply, you add up this distance, that's the quantity of the first person A. This is the quantity of the second person B, and this quantity, I'll just draw it underneath for you to see the color, is represented by this. So the red is simply A plus B. Sorry. This is here. This is A and this is B. This is B. Is all the way here. So the red curve will look a little bit farther out. So this is demand for person A, this is demand for person B, and the red line is A plus B is all of it, okay? So if this is 6 units and this is 10 units, this will be 60. It's a simple horizontal summation. And then it's very simple. Just the way you sum for 2 people, you can do exactly the same procedure for 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. Now, let me provide a simple example again, where we assume that 2 people have exactly the same demand, and we sum up for 2 people. Let's draw it. It's very simple and very easy. Let's draw when the demand for 2 people is exactly the same. So we can actually see it. So this is what the demand curve looks like, okay? This is demand for A, this is demand for A, but it's also for B. So you sum up by this distance here is for both A and B. So the new curve will be exactly double. So Next, here, this is what A consumes, and if this is A, this is B, the new curve goes out here. Now, for here, this is the distance for the 1. You take the same distance here, and it goes like this. And then you take that very large distance here, the same large distance here, and this is where you get this one. So the new curve starts out close, and then it goes very, very, very wide. And that's for 2 people. Now, of course, I can stretch the curve, let's say, for 3. Let me use for 3 with the red one. Here is the close, 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 close. So this is D, A plus B. And this is demand A plus B plus C. Okay, this is called horizontal summation. Now, this is 1 consumer, this is 2 consumers, this is 3 consumers. All right, it's time for a break.